The heavy doors of the Galactic Assembly Chamber sealed shut behind Ambassador David Turner, with a sound that echoed like thunder. 300 alien delegates from across the spiral arm sat in their towering seats, looking down at the lone human figure on the speaking platform. The massive chamber felt cold despite housing representatives from warm-blooded species. David had walked these halls for 15 years, always hoping the next vote would be different. Today marked his final appearance. The vote had been unanimous, except for 3 abstentions. Earth's antimatter production facility, the crown jewel of human engineering that supplied clean energy to half the galaxy, would be transferred to hegemony control within 60 standard days. The reason given was simple and familiar. Humans were too aggressive and unpredictable to handle such dangerous technology safely. The irony stung deeply. Human engineers had designed the facility. Human scientists had solved the containment problems that had stumped alien researchers for centuries. Human workers had operated it flawlessly for 2 decades without a single accident. David remembered his first day as ambassador. He had been young then, full of hope and pride. Humanity had just been accepted into the galactic community after proving their technological worth. The other species spoke of partnership and mutual benefit. They praised human innovation and creativity. Those words felt like poison now. Over the years, David had watched the pattern repeat endlessly. Humans would solve problems that stumped entire alien civilizations. They would share their solutions freely, hoping to build goodwill and trust. Then the Galactic Assembly would find reasons to take control of those innovations, claiming humans lacked the wisdom or stability to manage them properly. The fusion reactor designs went to the Confederation. The quantum communication networks went to the Empire. The medical advances went to the Alliance. Always the same excuse. Humans were too young, too violent, too unpredictable. The worst part was how other species treated human citizens. On Confederation worlds, human doctors were forced to work under alien supervisors who understood less than half of human medical techniques. In Empire space, human engineers were assigned to maintenance duties while aliens took credit for their designs. Throughout the galaxy, human colonies paid the highest taxes but received the least representation. Humans were useful but never equal. David looked up at the assembled delegates. High Chancellor Vorthak of the Hegemony sat in the central throne, his forearms crossed in satisfaction. The Chancellor had argued most eloquently about human aggression, citing their species' history of warfare. He conveniently ignored that the Hegemony had conquered 14 star systems in the past century, alone. Beside him sat Speaker Nalthara of the Confederation, her crystalline features glowing with approval. She had supported the motion by questioning human emotional stability, despite her own species' tendency toward violent mood swings during their mating cycles. For 15 years, David had played their game. He had smiled politely when they insulted his species. He had thanked them graciously when they stole human achievements. He had begged for scraps of respect while they grew fat on human innovation. Today would be different. David activated his personal communicator and spoke clearly into the chamber's recording system. His words would be broadcast to every human settlement across the galaxy. They would also be transmitted directly to Earth, Command, and the Colonial Council. The message was simple but carried the weight of 3 centuries of human space exploration. Fellow humans, we have tried to be good galactic citizens. We have shared our knowledge freely. We have served faithfully in every capacity they would allow us. We have paid our taxes, followed their laws, and respected their customs. We have done everything asked of us and more. David's voice grew stronger as he continued. In return, we have been treated as junior partners in our own discoveries. We have been taxed without representation. We have been excluded from decisions about our own colonies. We have been told repeatedly that we lack the wisdom to manage our own creations. The alien delegates began shifting uncomfortably in their seats. Some whispered among themselves. High Chancellor Vorthak raised one of his hands for silence, but David ignored him completely. Today marks the end of our participation in this charade. Effective immediately, humanity withdraws from all galactic institutions. We will recall our citizens from alien worlds. We will cease all technological sharing agreements. We will end all economic partnerships. We will close our space to all non-human vessels. We are done trying to earn respect from those who will never give it." The chamber erupted in protests and demands for order. Delegates stood and shouted in a dozen different languages. High Chancellor Vorthak slammed his ceremonial staff against the floor repeatedly, calling for David to be removed from the chamber. Through it all, David stood calmly on the speaking platform, waiting for the noise to die down. When silence finally returned, David delivered his final words as humanity's representative. "We came to you offering friendship and partnership. You chose to treat us as servants instead. That was your choice to make. Now we are making ours. Goodbye." David walked toward the chamber doors without waiting for permission to leave. Behind him, hundreds of alien voices rose in anger, confusion, and disbelief. Some delegates demanded immediate economic sanctions against human space. Others called for military action to prevent human withdrawal. A few quieter voices suggested negotiation, but they were quickly drowned out by the majority. As the massive doors opened before him, David felt a weight lifting from his shoulders that he had carried for 15 years. No more diplomatic immunity, no more careful words, no more pretending that insults were compliments. Humanity was finally free to chart its own course among the stars. The human transport ship waiting in orbit would take him home to Earth, where he would help coordinate the largest evacuation in galactic history. Every human citizen living on alien worlds would be coming home. Every human working for alien governments would be resigning. Every human scientist sharing research with alien institutions would be withdrawing their cooperation. The galaxy had made its choice about humanity's value. Now they would learn what life was like without them. David stepped into his shuttle and gave the pilot a single command: "Take us home." Behind them, the Galactic Assembly continued arguing about a problem they were already too late to solve. The humans were leaving, and this time they would not be coming back. The message reached every human settlement at exactly the same time across 17 star systems. Captain Lisa Ward read it 3 times before the full meaning sank in. After 20 years of service on Confederation medical stations, she was going home. Not on leave, not for rotation, but permanently. The recall order was absolute and immediate. Lisa walked through the corridors of Station Mercy for the last time, watching her alien colleagues continue their daily routines. They had no idea that their world was about to change dramatically. The station's chief medical officer, a tall blue-skinned Altarian named Dr. Kelth, waved cheerfully as she passed. He had always been kind to her, even when Confederation policy required him to double-check all human medical decisions. In her quarters, Lisa packed only personal items as instructed. Her medical research, her patient files, her equipment designs, all stayed behind. The recall order had been specific: bring nothing that belonged to the galactic community. Take only what was originally human. Lisa looked at the medical scanner she had modified to detect cellular damage in 16 different alien species. The base unit was human-designed, but her improvements were developed using Confederation resources. She left it behind. The evacuation, ships arrived within days. Massive human vessels that somehow appeared at the edge of every system where humans worked. Lisa had never seen ships like these before. They moved with a grace that suggested technology far beyond what humans had, shared with the galactic community. The implications made her curious, but there would be time for questions later. On the transport ship heading back to human space, Lisa met others like herself. Dr. Tom Williams had been working on Empire agricultural worlds, developing new crop strains that could feed millions. Engineer Ruth Santos had been maintaining the hegemony's quantum computers for 8 years. Physicist Mark Chen had been teaching at the galaxy's most prestigious university. All of them were going home, taking their knowledge with them. The ship's captain explained the situation during their journey. Humanity had tried to be good galactic citizens for decades, sharing their innovations and expertise freely. In return, they had been treated as junior partners and subjected to increasingly restrictive policies. The antimatter facility vote had been the final insult. Earth Command had decided that if the galaxy did not want human partnership, they would not have human support either. Within 3 months, the effects became visible. Lisa received reports from her old colleagues on Station Mercy. The medical scanners she had left behind began malfunctioning. The diagnostic software required regular updates that only she knew how to write. The patient monitoring systems needed calibration adjustments that were documented nowhere except in her personal notes. Dr. Kelth sent increasingly desperate messages asking for help, but Lisa's new orders were clear. No assistance to non-human institutions. The Confederation's response was predictable. They accused humans of sabotaging their equipment before leaving. They demanded that Earth Command provide technical support for systems that humans had designed. When these demands were ignored, they threatened economic sanctions. Earth's reply was simple. Humans would no longer participate in galactic commerce, making sanctions irrelevant. Similar problems appeared across the galaxy. The Empire's agricultural yields dropped by 30% when human-designed irrigation systems began failing. The hegemony's quantum communication network experienced increasing errors as maintenance protocols developed by human programmers went unused. The Alliance's transportation system slowed to a crawl when their navigation computers lost access to human-calculated hyperspace routes. At first, alien governments tried to solve these problems internally. They assigned their best scientists and engineers to reverse engineer human technology. Progress was slow and expensive. Human innovations often relied on intuitive leaps that were difficult for more methodical alien minds to understand. Systems that humans had built and maintained easily proved nearly impossible for others to repair. The galaxy's leaders initially dismissed these setbacks as minor inconveniences. They believed their superior numbers and resources would overcome any temporary difficulties caused by human withdrawal. The Galactic Assembly passed resolutions condemning human isolationism and demanding their return to galactic service. These resolutions were transmitted to Earth and filed away without response. As months passed, the problems multiplied. The Alliance discovered that their defensive satellites required software updates that only human programmers understood. The Confederation found that their mining operations depended on geological surveys that human scientists had prepared. The Empire realized that their medical facilities relied on diagnostic techniques that human doctors had developed. Replacement workers were hired at enormous cost, but they lacked the expertise to maintain complex systems. Equipment that had run smoothly for years under human supervision now required constant attention and frequent repairs. Productivity dropped across every sector where humans had previously worked. The most serious problems emerged in areas where humans had provided hidden contributions. Space traffic control systems began experiencing delays when human-designed scheduling algorithms were no longer maintained. Power grids suffered blackouts when human-written load-balancing software developed errors. Emergency response systems failed when human-created coordination protocols were no longer updated. Lisa watched these developments from her new position on Earth's medical research station. The work was more rewarding than anything she had done in alien space. Without the need to accommodate dozens of different alien physiologies, human medical science was advancing rapidly. New treatments and procedures were being developed every month. The best part was that this research belonged entirely to humanity. The evacuation had brought home more than just people. It had brought back centuries of accumulated knowledge and experience. Human scientists who had worked in isolation on different alien worlds were now collaborating freely. Engineers who had been forced to use alien materials and methods could now employ human innovations without restriction. The result was an explosion of technological advancement that surprised even Earth Command. Reports from the galaxy grew increasingly desperate. The Confederation offered substantial payments for human technical support. The Empire promised favorable trade agreements in exchange for human agricultural expertise. The hegemony suggested joint research projects with human scientists. All these offers were politely declined. The galaxy had spent decades treating humans as useful servants rather than equal partners. They had taken human contributions for granted while denying humans any real authority or respect. Now they were learning the true cost of that decision. The humans were gone, and they were not coming back. Lisa received one final message from Dr. Kelth on Station Mercy. The medical facilities were operating at less than half capacity due to equipment failures. Patient care had suffered dramatically. Several alien species were considering moving their medical needs to facilities outside Confederation space, but the same problems existed everywhere. The doctor's message ended with a simple plea. Please. Come back, we need you. Lisa deleted the message without responding. The galaxy had made its choice. Now humanity was making theirs. The emergency session of the Hegemony War Council convened at midnight, ship time. Admiral Cortex stood before the tactical display, studying reports from across their territory. Red warning indicators covered the star map like a plague, each one representing a critical system failure. In 6 months, the mighty Hegemony fleet had been reduced to a collection of drifting hulks. The problems had started small. A few ships experienced minor power fluctuations in their fusion cores. Navigation. Computers began producing slight calculation errors. Weapon targeting systems required more frequent recalibration. The Hegemony's engineers worked around these issues, believing they could solve them with time and effort. They were wrong. Admiral Cortex remembered the human engineer who had designed their fusion core systems. A quiet woman named Patricia Miller, who had worked on Hegemony ships for 12 years. She had been polite but never truly friendly with her alien colleagues. When the recall order came, she had packed her personal belongings and left without ceremony. The Admiral had not. Thought her departure was significant. Now he understood his mistake. The fusion cores that powered Hegemony warships were marvels of human engineering. They operated on principles that seemed simple but required precise understanding to maintain. Patricia had tried to train alien engineers in proper maintenance procedures, but they had been more interested in learning to operate the systems than to understand them deeply. The difference was now proving catastrophic. Without proper maintenance, the fusion cores began experiencing cascade failures. Safety systems activated to prevent explosions, but this left ships powerless in space. Repair attempts often made problems worse because alien engineers did not fully comprehend the relationships between different components. What had been the galaxy's most powerful fleet was now scattered debris floating in space. The situation was similar across Hegemony territory. Industrial facilities ground to a halt when their automated systems failed. Mining operations ceased when geological survey equipment stopped functioning properly. Agricultural worlds faced famine when irrigation networks designed by human engineers broke down completely. Director Alex Kane watched these developments from Luna Command with cold satisfaction. Earth's new military headquarters had been built. In secret during humanity's final years in the galactic community, the facility represented everything humans could accomplish when they worked for themselves instead of ungrateful aliens. Intelligence reports flowed in from across the galaxy, painting a picture of systematic collapse. The Confederation was experiencing similar problems with their quantum computers and medical facilities. The Empire's agricultural systems were failing at an alarming rate. The Alliance found their defensive networks compromised as maintenance protocols stopped functioning. Alex had predicted this outcome when the recall order was issued. Humanity had spent 3 centuries being helpful, solving problems for alien species who took their contributions for granted. Those species had grown dependent on human innovation without bothering to understand it. Now they were learning the cost of that dependence. The most satisfying reports came from the Galactic Assembly itself. The massive space station that housed their government was experiencing life support failures, communication breakdowns, and transportation system malfunctions. Human technicians had maintained these systems quietly for decades, working in the background while alien politicians took credit for the Assembly's smooth operation. Without those technicians, the station was slowly dying. Alex reviewed intelligence on alien attempts to solve their problems independently. The results were pitiful. Confederation scientists had spent 4 months trying to repair a single quantum computer, only to make it completely inoperative. Empire engineers had destroyed 3 agricultural processing facilities while attempting to restore their functions. Hegemony researchers had triggered a containment breach while studying human fusion technology, contaminating an entire research station. The aliens were discovering that human technology was not simply advanced equipment they could use without understanding. It represented a different way of thinking about problems and solutions. Human innovations often relied on intuitive insights and creative approaches that were difficult for more methodical alien minds to grasp. Systems designed by human engineers assumed human-style maintenance and troubleshooting. Some alien governments attempted to solve their problems through theft. Confederation raiders tried to capture human ships to study their technology. They found human vessels protected by defensive systems that seemed impossible. Empire spies attempted to infiltrate human colonies, only to discover security measures that defied their understanding. Hegemony forces tried to blockade human space and were destroyed by weapons that appeared from nowhere. The truth was that humanity had never shared their best technology with the galactic community. While aliens used human innovations from decades past, humanity had continued advancing in secret. The Recall Order had revealed weapons, defenses, and capabilities that shocked even human allies. Earth Command had been preparing for this day for years. As the galaxy's infrastructure crumbled, desperate governments began making offers to individual humans. They promised enormous payments, favorable contracts, even citizenship benefits to any human willing to return and help solve their problems. These offers were ignored completely. The Recall Order had been absolute, and human loyalty to their own species had proven stronger than any financial incentive. The economic effects spread beyond simple system failures. Trade routes that had operated efficiently for centuries became unreliable as navigation errors accumulated. Shipping schedules collapsed when port facilities lost their management software. Currency exchanges fluctuated wildly as automated trading systems stopped functioning properly. Alien species that had grown wealthy by exploiting human labor found their economies in free fall. The Valdari had built a mining empire using human geological surveys and engineering expertise. Without human support, their operations became unprofitable disasters. The Zephyrians had dominated agricultural markets using human-developed crop strains and farming techniques. Their food production dropped by 60% in a single growing season. Alex received daily reports of alien governments collapsing under the strain. The hegemony's outer worlds had declared independence when military protection disappeared. 3 Confederation systems had formed their own alliance after their infrastructure failed completely. The Empire was fighting civil wars as member species blamed each other for their dependence on human technology. Through all of this chaos, humanity thrived in isolation. Human colonies that had struggled under alien taxation and regulation now prospered beyond anything they had achieved as galactic citizens. Human scientists, freed from the burden of supporting alien research, made breakthrough discoveries every month. Human engineers working with unlimited resources created wonders that surpassed their previous achievements. The galaxy had treated humanity as servants whose contributions could be taken for granted. They had assumed human knowledge and innovation would always be available for their benefit. They had believed humans would continue accepting second-class status indefinitely in exchange for the privilege of serving their betters. Alex looked out at Earth's glittering cities and felt pride in his species' accomplishments. Humanity had tried to be good galactic citizens and had been repaid with contempt and exploitation. Now the galaxy was learning what life was like without human contributions. The lessons were proving harsh and expensive. Reports indicated that some alien leaders were beginning to discuss approaching Earth directly to negotiate humanity's return. Alex found this development amusing. The same species that had voted unanimously to steal human technology were now preparing to beg for human help. Their arrogance was being replaced by desperation as their civilizations crumbled around them. The galaxy had made its choice decades ago when it decided to treat humans as useful servants rather than equal partners. Humanity was now making its own choice about whether those species deserved a second chance. The answer was becoming increasingly clear with each passing day. Dr. Emma Cross stood in the observation deck of Prometheus Station, watching the construction of humanity's first dimensional gateway. The massive ring structure floated in space before her, its surface covered in patterns that seemed to shift and flow like living metal. 3 years ago, such technology would have been considered impossible. Today, it was merely the latest achievement in humanity's golden age of discovery. The recall from galactic society had unleashed something profound in human civilization. For centuries, their brightest minds had worked to solve alien problems, maintain alien systems, and advance alien goals. Now those same minds were focused entirely on human advancement, and the results were extraordinary. Emma remembered her time working for the Alliance's Research Institute. She had spent 15 years helping alien scientists understand basic principles that humans had mastered generations earlier. Her discoveries had been credited to alien supervisors while she received token acknowledgement as a research assistant. The experience had been frustrating but educational. She had learned exactly how much the galaxy depended on human innovation. The Dimensional Gateway Project represented everything humanity could accomplish when working for themselves. The underlying mathematics had been developed by human theorists decades earlier. But sharing such knowledge with aliens had been forbidden by Earth Command. Now that restriction was lifted, and human scientists were building technologies that would have seemed like magic to their former alien colleagues. Emma walked through Prometheus Station's research laboratories, observing projects that spanned every field of science. In one lab, researchers were perfecting matter manipulation at the molecular level. Another team was developing artificial intelligence systems that surpassed biological thinking in both speed and creativity. A third group worked on biotechnology that could extend human life indefinitely while enhancing physical and mental capabilities. The station itself was a marvel that demonstrated human engineering capabilities. It existed partially outside normal spacetime, allowing it to maintain perfect environmental conditions regardless of external forces. Its hull was constructed from materials that became stronger under stress, making it virtually indestructible. Energy systems based on zero-point extraction provided unlimited power for any conceivable need. These advances were possible because humanity no longer needed to limit themselves to technologies that aliens could understand and maintain. Human engineers were free to pursue innovations that required human intuition and creativity to operate effectively. The results surpassed anything the galaxy had ever seen. Emma received regular intelligence reports about conditions in alien space. The situation was deteriorating rapidly as the effects of human withdrawal compounded over time. The hegemony had lost control of half their territory as member worlds declared independence. The Confederation was fragmenting as different species blamed each other for their technological failures. The Empire faced multiple rebellions as their infrastructure collapsed completely. More interesting were reports of alien refugees gathering at the edges of human space. Desperate individuals and small groups approached human patrol ships, begging for sanctuary or assistance. They were turned away politely but firmly. Humanity had learned that charity without respect bred only contempt and dependency. Some aliens attempted more aggressive approaches. The Valdari sent military forces to demand human technical assistance, claiming it was owed under previous agreements. Their ships were destroyed by defensive systems that appeared to violate several laws of physics. The Confederation tried economic warfare, attempting to disrupt human trade networks that no longer existed. The Empire declared humans enemies of galactic civilization and called for a united response to force their cooperation. These threats were met with amused indifference by human leadership. Earth Command had spent years preparing for exactly these scenarios. Human defensive capabilities now included technologies that aliens could not comprehend, much less counter effectively. Any attempt to coerce human cooperation would result in swift and overwhelming retaliation. Emma's current project involved developing faster-than-light communication systems that operated through dimensional channels rather than traditional space. The implications were staggering. Human colonies could maintain instantaneous contact across galactic distances. Human exploration fleets could venture into previously unreachable regions while staying connected to Earth. Human civilization could expand beyond anything previously imagined. The project was possible because human scientists were no longer constrained by alien understanding. Previous human innovations had been limited to concepts that could be explained to alien colleagues and maintained by alien technicians. This requirement had forced humanity to develop simplified versions of their true capabilities. Now they could pursue their full potential without compromise. Emma visited the station's historical archives, where human achievements from the galactic period were being re-examined. Many innovations credited to alien scientists had actually been human discoveries that were simplified for alien consumption. Technologies that aliens considered revolutionary had been primitive versions of concepts humans had mastered decades earlier. The archives revealed the true scope of human contributions to galactic civilization. Human innovations had formed the foundation for virtually every significant technological advancement in the past 3 centuries. Alien species had built their civilizations on human knowledge, while denying humans equal status or recognition. The current collapse was simply those civilizations reverting to their pre-human capabilities. Emma felt no sympathy for the aliens' current difficulties. They had made their choice when they voted to confiscate human property while denying humans equal representation. They had demonstrated their true opinion of humanity's value and worth. Now they were discovering the consequences of that decision. The dimensional gateway project neared completion as Emma watched from the observation deck. The massive structure began generating energy patterns that existed partially outside normal space-time. Testing would begin soon, opening pathways to regions of the galaxy that had never been explored by any species. Humanity would expand into these areas while alien civilizations collapsed behind them. Reports indicated that some alien governments were finally beginning to discuss approaches to Earth. Diplomatic messages were being prepared that acknowledged humanity's importance and requested negotiation. These efforts were pathetic and far too late. The galaxy had spent decades demonstrating that they viewed humans as useful servants rather than equal partners. Emma reviewed proposals for humanity's next phase of expansion. New colonies would be established in star systems beyond alien reach, using technologies that would make them invisible to alien detection. Human exploration fleets would map regions of space that aliens had never imagined visiting. Human civilization would grow and prosper, while former galactic partners struggled with the consequences of their own arrogance. The transformation of human society was as remarkable as their technological advances. Citizens who had lived as second-class members of alien societies now thrived as full participants in human civilization. Children who had been educated in alien schools that downplayed human achievements now learned the true history of their species' contributions. Workers who had been restricted to menial positions in alien organizations now led projects that pushed the boundaries of possibility. Emma's personal transformation reflected the broader human experience. For years, she had worked to advance alien science while accepting token recognition for her contributions. Now she led humanity's most ambitious scientific project while receiving the respect and resources her abilities deserved. The difference in productivity and satisfaction was remarkable. The galaxy had wanted human innovation without human participation. They had expected human contributions without human recognition. They had demanded human service without human equality. Now they were learning that such arrangements were unsustainable. Humanity had withdrawn its gifts, and the galaxy was discovering how much it had depended on human generosity. As the dimensional gateway completed its first successful test, Emma felt pride in what humanity had accomplished independently. They had proven themselves capable of achievements that surpassed anything they had contributed to galactic civilization. More importantly, they had demonstrated that they did not need alien approval or acceptance to reach their full potential. The galaxy might eventually recover from humanity's withdrawal, but it would never regain the advantages it had enjoyed during the period of human cooperation. Those advantages had been gifts freely given by a species seeking partnership and respect. The galaxy had chosen to exploit those gifts instead of honoring them. Now humanity had moved beyond their former partners' reach, leaving them to face the future with only their own diminished capabilities. The shuttle carrying the galactic delegation approached New Geneva Station with the desperate slowness of a funeral procession. Ambassador Rachel Stone watched their arrival from the station's command center, noting how their once proud vessels now showed signs of poor maintenance and hasty repairs. 5 years of technological collapse had reduced the galaxy's former masters to beggars, hoping for scraps from humanity's table. Rachel had been chosen for this meeting precisely because she had never served in alien space during humanity's galactic period. Her perspective was not clouded by memories of past cooperation or personal relationships with alien individuals. She represented humanity's new generation, raised in isolation and educated in the true history of human-alien relations. Her judgment would be clear and uncompromised. The delegation included representatives from every major galactic power. High Chancellor Vorthak of the Hegemony led the group, his 4 arms now decorated with simple metal bands rather than the jeweled ornaments he had worn during humanity's last appearance at the Galactic Assembly. Speaker Nalthera of the Confederation had lost the crystalline glow that had once marked her species' prosperity. Director Kelthus of the Empire moved with the careful steps of someone whose civilization was collapsing around him. Each of these individuals had voted to confiscate humanity's antimatter facility 5 years earlier. They had dismissed human contributions as products of junior partners who lacked the wisdom to manage their own creations. They had spoken eloquently about human aggression and instability, while their own species engaged in conquest and exploitation across the galaxy. Now they came as supplicants to the species they had once scorned. Rachel met them in New Geneva's diplomatic reception area, a space designed to showcase humanity's achievements during their period of isolation. Holographic displays showed human colonies thriving beyond alien space. Technical demonstrations revealed technologies that seemed impossible by galactic standards. Art installations celebrated human creativity, freed from alien constraints. The message was subtle but unmistakable. Humanity had not merely survived without galactic society, they had transcended it. High Chancellor Vorthak spoke first, his voice carrying none of the arrogance Rachel remembered from historical recordings. He described the hegemony's current situation in terms that would have been unthinkable from a proud warrior species 5 years earlier. Half their territory was under rebel control. Their military forces had been reduced to ineffective remnants. Their industrial base had collapsed completely. Billions of hegemony citizens faced starvation as agricultural systems failed. Speaker Nalthara followed with an equally desperate account of Confederation troubles. Their quantum communication networks had failed completely, isolating member worlds from each other. Medical facilities could no longer treat injuries or illnesses that human doctors had handled routinely. Their educational systems had collapsed, as human-developed teaching methods became impossible to maintain. The Confederation was dissolving as member species abandoned technological civilization entirely. Director Kelthus described the Empire's situation in words that barely contained his species' desperation. Their agricultural worlds could no longer feed their populations. Transportation systems had broken down completely. Mining operations had ceased due to equipment failures. Multiple member worlds had declared independence and were fighting civil wars over the remaining functional technology. The Empire was fracturing into primitive tribal groups. Rachel listened to these accounts with polite attention, but no emotional response. The aliens had spent decades treating humanity as useful servants whose contributions could be taken for granted. They had denied humans equal representation while exploiting human innovation for their own benefit. They had voted unanimously to steal human property, while claiming humans lacked the wisdom to manage their own creations. The current crisis was simply the natural consequence of those choices. When the formal presentations concluded, the real negotiations began. High Chancellor Vorthak offered humanity sovereignty over 12 star systems in exchange for technical assistance in restarting hegemony industrial facilities. Speaker Nalthara promised permanent seats on the Confederation Council and a 50% share of all tax revenues in return for human help with their communication networks. Director Kelthus suggested a complete merger between the Empire and humanity, with humans taking leadership roles in all major decisions. These offers would have seemed generous during humanity's galactic period, when they had begged for basic recognition as equal partners. Now they appeared pathetically inadequate. The star systems offered by the hegemony were primitive worlds that humanity could claim easily through their own expansion efforts. The political positions promised by the Confederation were meaningless in a government that was collapsing rapidly. The Empire's merger proposal was laughable given their current state of technological regression. Rachel's response was delivered in the calm, measured tones that had become characteristic of human diplomacy. She thanked the delegates for their offers while noting that humanity no longer required galactic resources or territory. Human civilization was expanding beyond the galaxy's borders, using technologies that made traditional colonization methods obsolete. Human society was thriving in ways that galactic membership had never allowed. The aliens' desperation became more obvious as they increased their offers. The hegemony promised to transfer complete ownership of their remaining industrial facilities to humanity. The Confederation offered to dissolve their government entirely and accept human rule over their territory. The Empire suggested that humans could treat their worlds as colonies, while their populations served as workforce for human projects. These escalating offers revealed how completely the galaxy's perspective had changed. Species that had once viewed humans as junior partners were now willing to accept positions as human subjects or even slaves. The transformation was remarkable, but came far too late to influence human policy. Humanity had learned to thrive without galactic cooperation and had no interest in resuming their former role as the galaxy's servants. Rachel explained humanity's position with perfect clarity. The galaxy had demonstrated through decades of discrimination and exploitation that they viewed humans as useful tools rather than equal partners. The vote to confiscate human property had been the final proof of alien attitudes toward human rights and dignity. Humanity had responded by withdrawing completely from galactic society and building their own civilization based on mutual respect and shared prosperity. The current crisis in alien space was not humanity's responsibility or concern. Alien species had grown dependent on human innovation while denying humans fair compensation or representation. They had assumed human contributions would continue indefinitely, regardless of how humans were treated. They had been wrong, and the consequences of that error belonged entirely to them. When the aliens began pleading for mercy, Rachel's response was brief and final. Mercy was something that could be requested from partners or friends, not from former servants who had been dismissed and scorned. The galaxy had made its choice about humanity's value when they voted to steal human achievements while denying humans equal status. Humanity had made their own choice by withdrawing from galactic society permanently. The delegates attempted various arguments designed to appeal to human emotions or ethics. They spoke of the billions of innocent aliens who would suffer from continued technological collapse. They argued that humanity had a moral obligation to help less advanced species. They claimed that human isolation was a form of collective punishment against populations who had not participated in anti-human policies. Rachel rejected these appeals with the same calm precision she had shown throughout the meeting. The galaxy's current population had supported governments that discriminated against humans for decades. They had enjoyed the benefits of human innovation, while accepting human exclusion from decision-making processes. They had voted for leaders who promised to limit human influence while exploiting human contributions. Their current suffering was the direct result of choices they had made collectively. As the meeting concluded, the alien delegates made one final desperate offer. They promised to establish humanity as the dominant species in galactic government, with absolute authority over all technological development and resource allocation. They offered to rewrite every law and treaty to favor human interests. They promised that humans would never again face discrimination or limitation in any form. Rachel found this final offer particularly insulting. The aliens were suggesting that humanity should return to save civilizations that had spent decades proving their contempt for human dignity and rights. They wanted humans to repair systems that aliens had broken through their own incompetence and neglect. They expected humanity to abandon their thriving independent civilization to serve as caretakers for species that had rejected human partnership when it was offered freely. The irony was perfect and bitter. The same species that had once called humans too aggressive and unpredictable to manage their own technology now begged for human management of alien technology. The governments that had denied humans equal representation now offered to make humans the supreme authority. The civilizations that had treated human contributions as products of junior partners now acknowledged that they could not survive without human leadership. Rachel stood and delivered humanity's final response to the galactic community. Her words were broadcast simultaneously to every remaining alien government and recorded for historical archives. She spoke clearly and deliberately, ensuring that no part of her message could be misunderstood or misinterpreted. For 3 centuries, humanity offered friendship and partnership to the galactic community. We shared our knowledge freely and worked tirelessly to advance civilizations throughout the galaxy. We asked only for respect and equal treatment in return. Instead, we received discrimination, exploitation, and contempt. You treated us as servants, whose contributions could be taken for granted while denying us the rights and recognition we had earned. The alien delegates listened in silence, their earlier desperation now replaced by the numb acceptance of inevitable defeat. They had come hoping to negotiate humanity's return, but Rachel's words made clear that no negotiation was possible. Humanity had moved beyond the reach of galactic influence or persuasion. You voted unanimously to steal our greatest achievement, while claiming we lacked the wisdom to manage our own creation. That vote revealed your true opinion of humanity's place in galactic society. We accepted your judgment and withdrew from that society completely. What has happened since is the natural consequence of your choices, not ours. Rachel paused to let her words sink in before continuing with the final verdict on human-alien relations. You are not our partners, you are not our friends, you are not our responsibility. You chose to treat us as servants, and when we stopped serving, your civilizations collapsed. That collapse demonstrates exactly how much you needed us and how little we needed you. The alien delegates began one last desperate attempt to appeal for human assistance, but Rachel cut them off with a gesture. Her next words ended any possibility of future cooperation between humanity and the galactic community. We offered you partnership based on mutual respect and benefit. You chose exploitation based on assumed superiority and permanent human subservience. Now you offer us dominance based on your desperation and our demonstrated superiority. We reject all of these arrangements. Humanity will continue building our own civilization while you face the consequences of your own choices. The meeting ended with the alien delegates being escorted back to their shuttle under human guard. They had come seeking salvation and found only the cold reality of consequences. The galaxy that had once dismissed humanity as junior partners now faced an uncertain future without the species they had taken for granted. Rachel watched their departure from the observation deck, feeling no satisfaction or regret about the outcome. The aliens had made their choices decades ago when they decided that human contributions could be exploited without acknowledging human worth. Humanity had learned from that experience and built something better than anything the galaxy had offered. In the years that followed, scattered reports reached human space about the continuing collapse of galactic civilization. Some species managed to halt their technological regression by returning to pre-industrial societies. Others continued declining until their populations could no longer sustain organized government. A few attempted to rebuild using primitive methods, but progress was slow and limited. Humanity continued expanding beyond the galaxy's borders, establishing colonies in regions that aliens had never imagined exploring. Human technology advanced to levels that would have seemed magical during their galactic period. Human society flourished in ways that had been impossible while serving alien interests and accommodating alien limitations. The galaxy had begged for mercy, but mercy implied a relationship between equals or a duty between superior and inferior. Humanity owed nothing to civilizations that had rejected human equality while exploiting human innovation. The aliens would survive or perish based on their own capabilities, just as humanity had been forced to do when they were excluded from galactic decision-making. Rachel often reflected on the transformation that humanity had undergone since their withdrawal from galactic society. They had discovered that their greatest achievements came not from serving others, but from serving themselves. They had learned that respect could not be earned through service alone, but required the willingness to withdraw that service when respect was denied. Most importantly, they had proven that they needed no one's permission or approval to reach their full potential among the stars. The galaxy had taught humanity a valuable lesson about the difference between partnership and exploitation. Humanity had applied that lesson by choosing independence over subservience. The consequences belonged to those who had created the conditions that made such a choice necessary. The begging was over, and the answer would always remain the same. Humanity was done caring about those who had never cared about them.